And welcome back to part 43 of Final Fantasy 15, where today we'll be continuing our final boss gauntlets, where we have not one, not two, but three more bosses that we'll be tackling today, so then tomorrow's part will just be the final boss. But that being said, let us enter the citadel and be greeted with what our next challenger on our journey is. Because in the next one, might catch you by surprise if you didn't watch the trailers.
That was a most impressive performance.
Thought that was good? Wait till you see what we've got in store for you.
I'm giddy with anticipation, but I'm afraid you've one more wall to break through first. The old wall, the kings of yore. Oh, what fun it will be to watch those I revile most tear each other apart.
Come forth, O chosen.
I thought the kings of old were on our side. Look out!
The Corrupted Fierce is level 48 with 153,350 HP, a strength stat of 16,348, vitality of 318 and spirit of 120. He is neutral to every physical weapon and has a 20% weakness to both electric and light. He is considered part demon, which is why he has that partial weakness to light. The main strategy is don't get hit without meaning to pull a no shit strategy, but if he smacks you with his mace, which is the Mace of the Fierce, you will fucking feel it, because his strength stat is through the roof. But thankfully his slight weakness to electricity will act as a beneficial if you use it with you, because you can use the electric on you to try and get some extra damage in. This was one of the extra fights added into the Royal Edition, and this is one of the three big ones in a row, and all three of them, I'm just going to warn you now, are a step beyond all the other bosses in this gauntlet. All three of them are more difficult than any other in there. They're the "are you sure you're ready for the end" piece. They are, slight spoilers, harder than the actual final boss. They've buffed the final boss himself to make him a bit better, because when the game first launched he was an absolute fucking joke. But it doesn't change the fact that this boss is a lot harder than him. That being said, there's not much to the strategy here. Stick is only playing as Noctis, even though it will give you the option to swap between, because the game itself will auto-swap you to who is the most helpful in the fight when they are nearly dead. When each boss is nearly dead, it will reach a point where Noctis himself can physically no longer hurt them, and it will force you to switch to someone else. Even if you've not unlocked the character to play as, it will allow you to play as them in that moment. And the music's just fucking amazing. I'm going to stop talking for the music for a second, because it's literally just so good.
He's looking even fiercer than before.
Let's see if he finally starts to his name.
When the Fist is on lower HP, you'll notice that it will become a lot more frenzied. That's because it's now covered in that Star Scourge energy, which will allow it to do explosive attacks, have gravitational pulls in some of its attacks, and in general hit a little harder because it will now be hitting elemental as well as physical. So its elemental stat will be stacking on top of its physical, making it hit even harder. Which is why you're seeing me use items and a lot of people are limping around, including myself. You've just got to last it out. If you can get enough damage in on the Fierce, eventually you'll reach a point where it will almost reach a defensive state instead, where it realizes offense is not working. When it reaches that defensive state, you'll no longer be able to easily harm it, and the game will eventually force swap you to Gladio. Because Gladio is the only one who can harm it at this point. But seriously, the music for these parts of the final bosses, so the entire final boss sequence, the moment Cerberus fights, every track that plays is fucking amazing. And I know I've been trying my hardest to pull back on swearing, but there's no other real way to put it. It's just so damn good. They put their heart and soul into the soundtrack. and I couldn't be happier with it. And I hope Yoko is allowed to do more soundtracks to the Final Fantasy franchise in the future, because she is such a worthy successor to Uematsu. Here's the point where it force swaps you to Gladio, because he's the only one who can break this shield. You're waiting for him to attack so you can parry and break through it that way, like that. And you'll get a free 10k damage on him as well. And then afterwards it's just a matter of wrapping up the fight, but just stick as Gladio at this point, because it's just, you might as well finish the fight as Gladio. And every single attack the Fierce can perform can actually be parried by Gladio, regardless of how heavy hitting they seem to be hitting. And the fight's just about done, thankfully. Every time you finish a fight against one of these guys, you will be ending it with a quick time event, so be ready for them. They're very forgiving on the timing, like most other quick time events in this game, but still.
I've served as your shield through thick and thin.
Yes, you have, Gladio. And now we gotta get to do the most badass thing. The final slash and duel master is your slice, and it gives you 20 AP for it. That's a really good amount of AP. Thanks, Fierce. And that ends that first of the 3 fights of today's part. It is very much a trial of the past kings today.
Okay.
But after this, Gladiolus will be slightly weakened. It won't affect gameplay, but it's just kind of supposed to be a story-wise hint that they're exhausting now, because we have put them through a lot, and Gladio is the first one to really show signs of that exhaustion. Also, if you go over there's a tempered shield if you want it. Boosts your defense by 40 and increases your maximum HP by 800, so it's quite helpful if you want it. I want to say I equip it on Gladio because I like Gladio being my brick wall, but I'm unsure. But when you're ready, persevere onwards.
He's expecting company.
But understand that you are now at a point of no return. Well, a temporary point of no return. When you take this lift up, you can't take it back down until the next 2 bosses have been defeated.
It'll save our legs to walk up.
Yes, it will. Let's go. You might notice a slight cut there, but that was me just saving the footage. I made sure to cut and save each footage after every single one of the bosses, just so then they were easier to locate the clips when I was editing it together. It's like, okay, this is the Fierce boss fight, this is Ifrit, this is Cerberus, etc, etc. The only one that I didn't end as soon as the boss fight is the actual final boss fight, because I kept the ending cutscene with it.
The throne room waits outside,
Yeah. So does Ardyn.
So does Ardyn.
acting like he owns the place.
Well, he kind of has for the past decade.
All back. It ends here.
Like, I kind of gathered the moment Noctis was in the crystal and Ardyn saw the rest of the team walked through their attacks and carried on walking, he just went straight to Insomnia and took it over like king. But as we persevere on, we'll enter a very bizarre environment, not what we were expecting. Somewhere where a rogue would be able to easily hide in the shadows. The only queen of Lucius, the rogue, now stands before us. And she's probably the hardest of the 3 if you're not ready. Because she's so fucking quick. And she uses a ranged weapon, so she can attack you up close or throw at you from a range. And that awesome boss scene gets to play again. By the way, the rogue is level 50 with 126,700 HP, a strength stat of 13,380, a vitality of 204 and spirit of 182. She's neutral to all physical weapons except machinery and firearms, where she has a 20% weakness to them. AKA, Prompto's good here. She only takes half damage from every elemental, but once again, because she's part demonic, she will take a 20% extra damage from light. Similar to how the fight against the Fierce went, just persevere with it as Noctis, and after a while it will force you to take over with Prompto. Every so often the rogue will leave the arena. When she does, you have to keep in mind that she'll be coming in very soon. So just remain evasive and keep your wits about you, otherwise you're going to get whacked. And with how high a strength stat she has, you're not going to manage it. Also, similar to the Fierce, there's no parts of her that you can break to lower her defense. This is just a straight war. Her attacks can also inflict poison, as I've just scrolled past that reading through as I wait for this to go through. So, at this point you should really know how to deal with poison, but at this point in the game, with how late in the game it is and how powerful of a boss the rogue is, if you get poisoned, really pay attention to your health, because as you can see with Noct, it's sitting on 1 because poison never kills. Which is weird. A lot of games have adopted that recently, of poison doesn't kill, it just stops you at 1. When in the good old days, if you didn't keep an eye on poison, it would just kill you. Also, because of the side quest we did with Prompto has unlimited bullets for his machine gun. Not his rockets and grenade, but for his machine gun, which is really helpful and really powerful. What your main priority should really be to help burn through the rogue's HP here is get your technique maxed out and then use trigger happy. Because Prompto can actually hit the rogue with trigger happy even when she's outside the physical boundary that the other 3 can't hit her in, which is why they make you play as Prompto, because he's the only one that can capitalize the most on the damage. And because of her weakness to firearms, you can really burn through the HP, as you just saw there. And just like that, the fight's over, and he just kicked a shuriken. He kicked the blade end of a shuriken, no less.
It's my turn to stand by him.
And we get to do crack shot, the most badass looking technique in the game. Boom! And we get 50 AP plus an additional 220, so it's 90 extra AP for that. If there's one thing that's amazing about these boss fights, if anything else, is how much AP you're getting. They really make up for how tight the AP used to be. And now Prompto is also kinda knackered. Like I said, it won't affect gameplay, it's only a story beat to show that the team are reaching their wits' end with exhaustion. Now Gladio and Prompto are burnt out, so take a wild guess who's next. The next one's slightly different though, because it's the last of the 3, so it'll still have its moment, but at the same time, it's the last of the 3, so they make it a bit more special. As we persevere on. There's not much else I can really say until the next boss fight starts. Ardyn's brother, Somnis Lucis Kylum, otherwise known as the first king of Lucis, or the Mystic, is level 53 with 147,500 HP, a strength stat of 18,931, vitality of 222, and spirit of 186. He is neutral to everything. He takes only half the damage from ice attacks, has a 25% resistance to lightning, and is 20% weak to fire. Additionally, like before, he's part demon, so a 20% weakness to light. He is completely immune to all status conditions. Was worth mentioning, the previous 2 were only resistant to them, while this guy is completely immune. And you will have to burn through his HP twice because there is a second phase. The first phase functions not too similar to how you previously had to handle the other 2, in the terms of you're just powering through as Noxus, and eventually it will put you in control of another team member, this time being Ignis. But unlike the last 2, because of the much more significance of this one, being the brother of Ardyn, you will get a second fight with him, and obviously he's the first king, so he is one of the strongest and oldest. And his theme's also slightly different. Well, I say slightly, it's just a completely different track in the soundtrack that represent that he is the most significant of the 3. But I won't shut up for this phase. I'll stop talking for the second phase, because the track in that's even better then. But it is an amazing soundtrack. Like, I can't get over it enough. If you get the chance, listen to this soundtrack. Whether it's just the main game with Volume 1 or all the extra stuff added with all the DLCs and Royal Edition with Volume 2, listen to this soundtrack, because it's the best soundtrack I've ever fucking heard. In a video game period. Like, I'm pretty confident in saying it's the best soundtrack I've ever heard. And I've heard a lot of amazing soundtracks over the years, but this one, it's over 200 tracks big, and there's not a single bad track. That takes some serious commitment. in some serious amazement.
Nothing stands in Nox's way.
Yeah! But now we have the end of this first phase where we get to do Ignis' final stand. And we've used Elemency on it to really injure and cripple it as much as we can.
Whatever it takes, no matter the cost.
But now we're taken to what looks like the bloody Shadow Realm as we enter phase 2 of the Mystic. In this phase, the Mystic is far, far more aggressive, and he can also take to Disguise, similar to a few other bosses in the past. But just like other bosses in the past, if he takes to Disguise and you Warp Strike after him, you can start bringing the fight back to him and bring him down to the ground. And this one I don't fuck up a whole bunch, because at this point I know the trick. It's called spam square during the animation and then spam circle as soon as it connects, because he will always give it to you. Additionally, in this phase, he could do it a little in the first phase, but thankfully he didn't do it too much. But every single attack has a chance of casting confusion. So you're going to see me use a Mega Elixir just to save our necks at this point. But anytime you see him take to the sky, pay attention to what he's going to do. If he's sitting around, warp at him. If he's not, don't risk it. Like right now, go straight up to him because he's very high up. So be ready for any counter and then warp strike after him. Just keep on his chase no matter what chance you get. It's really cool to have these sky battles play out. I've mentioned it back with the Aranea fight way back when, and I'll mention it still. One of the coolest things about this combat system is how much aerial fight you get with each boss. If you manage to successfully counter and bring him to the ground, he'll be left vulnerable so you can get extra damage done for a brief while. However, it's not long, so really make the most of it. Because as soon as he's back and prepares his sword, the vulnerability will pass. For this phase, you will not be swapping as anyone, but instead you will need to be relying on your teammates together. And this theme, I'm just going to let the rest of this theme play, even if it's for the rest of the fight, because I've already gone through the strategy and there's not much else I can say at this point. Just be wary of the confusion, only use items if you have to, and if he takes to the sky, get on his case. And when the fight ends, be prepared for more quick time events, because this one's a long one, but worth it because you get an absolute mountain ton of AP. But that being said, I'll let you listen to this amazing theme.
On my watch! You're up, Prompto!
My turn! Come on, Iggy!
No mercy! Go, Noct!
It's over.
You have done well. Hear me, chosen king. The time has come to fulfill your calling and dispel the darkness from our world. Go forth, restore the light, and free my brother from his curse.
Thanks. With you guys at my side,
I know. I will be ready for anything.
Thus ends the boss fights I wish to cover today, so the last thing we're going to do before we go is check out the murals across the walls of the prophecy we just partook in the whole game. Because all the paintings around prophesize exactly what was going to happen in this game, one way or another, whether it was in the past, the story of the gods,
I'll make sure it does.
or the present with the darkness to overcome, and us becoming the savior.
Ardyn was meant to appear in these too.
Never would have guessed that guy for royalty.
I know. But that being said, I think I'll leave you guys to your days. Next time on Final Fantasy 15, we're finishing the game. We've come a long way, but we're there. That being said, you guys take care now, and I'll see you then.
Always made my dad all serious and sad.
It no doubt reminded him of the fate his son would come to bear.
So, Ardyn is the darkness of the legends.
Ironically, since he was to be the King of Light.
And only I can deliver him from his own darkness.
My buddy's gonna write the last chapter of the legend. So cool.
I recall a young prince leaving his mark on a painting. Is it still there?
I don't think anyone could spot it. Had one of my attendants cover it up pretty good.